Welcome to part 2 of Breeders' Cup Championship Saturday. In this video, we break down the $2 million sprint, the $2 million mile, the $2 million distaff, and the $4 million turf. Big boy races. Let's get that cash. The next Breeders' Cup Championship race, race 7, is the sprint at 6 furlongs. This is such an exciting race year after year. Let's go through the horses right now. Number 1, Whitmore at 6-1. Jockey Ricardo Santana Jr., trainer Ron Moquette. Wow, this Whitmore is a battle-tested 5-year-old, high buyer of 104. Take a look at his last 4 races. Very impressive. First, the True North Grade 2 at Belmont Park. Second, by a neck to Imperial Hint, who's in this race. Then the next race was the Belmont Sprint, another Grade 2. Second, by a neck to Limousine Liberal, who is in this race. Then he wins the Forgo at Saratoga, goes off at 8, just under 9-1, and wins it with a 104 buyer. He beats City of Light. He beats Limousine Liberal. Then the Phoenix, a Grade 2, 100 buyer, comes second by a head to Promises Fulfilled, who's in this race. But as you'll notice, none of those races were at Churchill Downs. And if you look where Churchill Downs race was, it was a sloppy track, albeit, but 4th by 3 1/4 lengths. He lost to Limousine Liberal, who loves this track, who's in this race. Whitmore's a classy sprinter, been working very well since that near miss in the Grade 2 Phoenix last month. He will try to work out a rail trip. That's not easy. So he's going to try to work out a rail trip. In a sprint, it's pretty difficult when you're on the rail. He'll have to angle out to make his run at the pace setters. He got a near dream setup in a similar spot in the Phoenix, and he couldn't get the job done. May have been a little too close to the pace in that one, but Whitmore always shows up. The price should be right. He may be used best probably underneath an exotic. I'm not even going to be doing that. I'm not going to be using Whitmore in my action. Now let's go to the second horse, Promises Fulfilled. Jockey Luis Saez, trainer Dale Romans, a high buyer of 108. This is a dangerous 3-year-old who's going to go right to the lead. He is the best 3-year-old dirt sprinter in the world, but now he's facing older horses, and that's not easy. He broke his maiden over this very track at Churchill Downs and has had a great second half of his campaign. Now, he may have benefited from an inside speed-friendly track in that Grade 2 Phoenix score over Whitmore, but it was still an impressive effort for his first time against older horses. It looks like he'll be able to clear the field from the bell, and he will have to be run down. Now, I do expect him to get run down. This lightly raced 3-year-old has just 10 races under his belt in his career and is very dangerous and will get the lead. We'll see if he can hold on to it. Next up is B Squared at 20-1. Jockey Mario Gutierrez, my favorite jockey, trainer Doug O'Neill, a high buyer of 98. This is way too big of a class jump for B Squared. He doesn't have the speed to match with these. He ran in this race last year and placed 9th by 13 lengths. I'm surprised Doug O'Neill is bringing him back to try this again. The fourth horse, Warriors Club at 15-1. Jockey Luis Contreras, trainer D. Wayne Lucas, a high buyer of 102. This 4-year-old cuts back in distance after failing to make an impact in 2 longer races. He was in the Grade 1 Forgo, and he was crushed by a couple of today's foes, including whom we mentioned, Whitmore, because Whitmore won that Forgo. And it was a surprise, as we said, at just under 9-1, but Warriors Club showed nothing. He didn't fire last out in the Ack at a mile. I'm having nothing to do with him in this race. Now we have the 5, Imperial Hint, very dangerous horse at 9-5. Jockey Javier Castellano, trainer Luis Caravajo Jr. High buyer of 109. He's run 3 straight and enters this off an easy score against an overmatched group in the Belmont Grade 1 Vosburg 5 weeks ago. It was at this same distance. He was able to control everything from the bell, but his best game is stalking, and he'll have to do that here. He draws a nice post. He'll be outside of the fastest one, whom we spoke of, Promises Fulfilled, who will go to lead the 2 horse, and he'll be able to stalk. His lone loss this year was at Churchill Downs. He's 0-2 here. That's the only thing that makes me uncomfortable about Imperial Hint, and yes, it does make me feel uncomfortable. I will not be taking Imperial Hint to win this race. He's facing the best horses he's ever faced in his life, but he's been training very fast, and he is a very fast horse. Let's move on to the 6, Always Sunshine at 20-1. Jockey Frankie Pennington, trainer Edward Allard, high buyer of 101. This is another horse who's having a way too big of a class jump. He faced some of these foes in the Grade 2 True North at Belmont, was 4th, 9 1/4 lengths behind. Even on his best day, he can't run with these. The 7 horse, Distinctive B at 12-1. Jockey Drayden Van Dyke, trainer Peter Miller. High buyer of 100. He was beaten by his barn's other runner. Distinctive B, other runner is Roy 8. There's a thought that Distinctive B may just be in here to be a rabbit. Trainer Peter Miller, it looks like he's put in Distinctive B to force Promises Fulfilled to go too fast, because Roy 8 is a guy who stalks the pace, pounces late. And if Distinctive B pushes Promises Fulfilled, then Roy 8, who won last year's championship here, or not here, but the Breeders' Cup Championship, it was at Del Mar, will be ready to roll. This 7-year-old Distinctive B likes to be near the lead from the outset. He finished in the money in 11 straight, but all of those races were against significantly cheaper company. Distinctive B is a fast horse. You know, he could end up maybe holding on to a 3rd or 4th spot. I don't think he will be. I won't be using Distinctive B. Now we come to a horse I will be using, the 8 Limousine Liberal at 6-1. Jockey Jose Ortiz, trainer Ben Colebrook, high buyer of 102. We talk about the horse or the course. This guy is one of those guys. He's won 6 of his 8 races at Churchill. Loves this sod. Local Lover is the only runner in here with more than 1 score over this track, and he should move forward with the return to this venue. He tried to run on down inside behind the front-running winner of Keeneland, the Phoenix, that was Promises Fulfilled. He was in that race. He had space issues. He was boxed in. He couldn't get outside to make his run, and he started his drive too late. He will be rolling at a solid price. The fact that he has struggled over the last little while, and I mean not really struggled, but he hasn't looked dominant. He hasn't won since he won the Belmont Sprint by a neck over Whitmore, but he came 3rd by a length and a half in the Forego and 3rd by a half length in the Phoenix. That's going to give us a nice number at 6-1. He'll be rolling at a solid price, and this is a bit shorter, this trip, than what he'd probably prefer, but he's going to need Promises Fulfilled to be softened up, and Limousine Liberal will get that from, as we mentioned, Distinctive B. Now the 9 horse Roy H. I will be using both Limousine Liberal and Roy H at the top. I think they are perfect horses for this situation. Roy H. Jockey Paco Lopez, trainer Peter Miller, high buyer of 111. He won this race last year when it was at Delmont. Now he's going to be making his first start at Churchill Downs. But he's drawing a great post, the 9, the outside, being outside of the speed to employ his signature pace stalking tactics in a field where the pace is going to be very fast. And with this outside post, Paco Lopez has options. He's done almost all of his damage in California, but this 6-year-old has shipped well in the past and should be in the right spot, turning for home. He'll likely have to pass his 2 biggest rivals and hold off a couple of other solid sprinters. And that won't be easy, but he is still a big player. He won the Santa Anita Sprint Championship this year. Roy H is rolling, and I will be backing both Limousine Liberal and Roy H. Now, in saying that, I do feel like Imperial Hint is going to be around there, so I'm going to be focusing my efforts on those 3 horses, as you will see with my act. The next Breeders' Cup Championship race is the Mile, race 8. Goes off at 3:36 Eastern Standard Time. And the reason why this race is so exciting, I can't wait, is because it's the beginning of the 50-cent Pick 4. And the Pick 4 on Championship Saturday is where you get those giant scores. The multi-$1,000 scores that are of your wildest dreams, they all start here. Now, this is a wide open race, this Mile. And I will not be making an individual bet on this race. I will be focusing all my efforts on the Pick 4. I need my Pick 4 to get rolling. There's a lot of different horses who could do this. I will be using more horses in this race than in the other 3 following this for my Pick 4. It's imperative to get through this first race, rolling it with your Pick 4. It's imperative for the excitement of the day. So I won't be making an individual bet. I will be focusing only on the Pick 4. The Europeans that are coming over aren't that strong. It can be said that this isn't a great year for European horse racing. I agree with that statement. Let's break down the field. The number 1 horse, One master out of Great Britain, going off at 12-1. Jockey James Doyle, trainer William Haggis, has won back-to-back graded stake races in Europe. Now, if you look at this graded stake races he won, they're very interesting. He ran in Tipperary, Ireland. He ran in a grade 3 stakes race, and he won it by a half length. I guess it was a feeling by the punters that he wasn't up against good enough talent, because then he went into a grade 1 stakes race in France, and he was left alone. Nobody put money on him. He went off at 47-1 and won by a nose. This is a lightly raced 4-year-old, only 8 races under his belt. He's won the last 2. But in saying all that, I'm not going to back one master here. There is a question of who he was beating, even in that August race there in France. The horse that he beat, the horse that came in second, ran dead last at 50-1 in another Group 1 race. She handles the firm ground. We know that it's raining right now. We know that the rain will dry up. It won't rain on Saturday, but this is probably going to be softer ground. I will be laying off one master. Let's move on to a horse I am excited about, and we'll be using on my pick 4 the number 2 horse, Next Shares, morning line of 10-1. Jockey Tyler Gaffalione, trainer Richard Baltus, a high buyer of 106. He has also won 2 straight races. He won the 250 grand Old Friends, and then went on to win the Grade 1 Shadwell at Keeneland at 23-1. It looks like he likes softer turf. Well, he's coming to the right racetrack for that. He's won 3 triple-digit buyers at this mile and on turf already this year. Last race is the best race he's ever won, and they kept him right there in Kentucky. He's been stuck. He's not stuck, but he's been in Kentucky. He, to me, Next Shares is a very appealing long shot. Then we get to the 3-horse Happily out of Ireland at 15-1. Jockey William Lordan, trainer Aidan Murphy. He was the favorite in last year Breeder Cup Juvenile Filly Turf, and he completely failed to fire. He placed last by 16.25 lengths. He has not won since. He's come close in some tough Grade 1s, very tough Grade 1s. It's also, remember, we talk about this often. Let the jockeys do a lot of the work for you. Ryan Moore has decided not to ride him for Aidan O'Brien. Ryan Moore is riding Gustav Klimt. That is a huge sign, and Ryan Moore is telling us something here, and I'm going to listen. I'm not backing Happily. He hasn't had a good 3-year-old season. He's 0-for-6, but he's been banging heads with the best horses in Europe. He's coming off of he's coming off of her strongest race of the year. So Happily, I can understand why people would think that Happily is a live long shot, but I won't be backing her here. Here is a horse that I will be putting in my pick 4. Polly Dream, the 4-horse from Ireland at 5-1. Jockey Maxine Gouillon, trainer Frederick Head. Trainer Freddie Head and Goldakova. Goldakova owned this BC Mile. They won it 3 straight years starting in 2008. This filly is out to make amends after a terrible trip as the chalk on a big ARC undercard race. She has to prove she can go this far. But any horse that can beat 19 other horses in a Group 1 in Europe is talented. She will not be intimidated by a big field, and she will have no problems running with males. 2 of her 3 wins have come against the boys. Can she run the mile? She hasn't proven that she can, but this is a horse that is more than capable. Now we get to the number 5, Oscar Performance at 6-1. Another horse I'll be using in my pick 4. Jockey Jose Ortiz, trainer Brian Lynch. High buyer of 104. Very interesting few months for horse fans, thoroughbred fans who've been watching Oscar Performance. In the Arlington Million 2-back, he broke a half step slow, was briefly impeded on the inside. Ortiz felt the runner took some bad steps, pulled the runner up, basically out of caution, was taken out on a stretcher. Everybody thought the worst, came back a month later and was incredible, absolutely incredible up at Woodbine. Now, this is a distance specialist, bumped early the other time that he ran at Churchill, but he's coming off the top bear when he got his own way on the lead. Now, he'll probably not get his own way on the lead, but he likes to go right to the lead, and he's capable of handling a long-distance race even at the front. Love the fact that his speed, that he has a ton of speed, but he doesn't need the lead to win. He proved that in the Grade 3 poker at Belmont. One of the best things he may have going for him is that his speed makes him the master of his own destiny. He can decide exactly how he wants to handle the race, or I guess Jose Ortiz can decide exactly how to handle the race. Oscar Performance has won 8 of his 14 races. He should make the lead. I expect him to make the lead. The only question is, can he hold it? Let's move on to the 6-horse Almanar at 12-1 out of Great Britain. Jockey Joel Rosario, trainer Chad Brown, a high buyer of 104. Brown is 15% in the last 5 years with second off the layoff runners in a Grade 1. He has run well on a number of different courses, which will help him. You must respect everything that Chad Brown does. If Chad Brown brings out a horse, you have to respect him, and you have to respect Almanar here. I won't be using him. He was a no-show in the Grade 1 Shadwell Turf, but Chad Brown kept with him, and he brought him here. So Chad Brown feels like there was a reason why he didn't fire. It looks like he likes firm turf. This won't be firm. I'm keeping Almanar off of my action. Now we get to the 7, Expert Eye out of Great Britain at 8-1. Frankie Dettori in the saddle, and trainer Sir Michael Stout. When Michael Stout brings a horse over from Europe, it's not for fun. It's to get a winner. This is a first-time Lasix user. I will be using him on my pick 4. Stout has stepped up before. He has won 7 Breeders' Cup races. Now, he is just too sharp of a horse not to be taken very seriously in this spot, but he has never won a Grade 1 race. He has to show that he can handle the distance. He's been given time since his first. He's been given time since his first time. Excuse me. Let's break that down a little more. Let's pull out Expert Eye here. Expert Eye has only run a mile 3 times. Did a very bad job the first time. That was May 18th in Newmarket. Came back in Great Britain at the Goodwood and ran a very nice race, barely losing to Lightning Spear, who is in this race. And then last race in France in a Grade 1, he came 3rd by a length and a quarter. It was with Moore in the saddle. This time he's going with Dettori. Dettori was in the saddle when he won the Grade 3 in York. This is a first-time Lasix user. He will be running late. I believe in Expert Eye. He's inconsistent, but he's capable of firing. Next, we go to the 8-horse I Can Fly out of Great Britain at 10-1. Jockey Jamie Spencer, trainer Aidan O'Brien. First-time Lasix. This talented miss was beaten by her stablemate Happily at Newmarket 2-back, but she was troubled at the break. Didn't get the opportunity to fire. Didn't really show her best stuff. She did beat the boys in August, but that was hardly an impressive field. The place horse that day returned to run way back, beaten by over 20 lengths to remain a maiden. I Can Fly's at 10-1. All Aidan O'Brien horses need to be respected. I'm not going to be using I Can Fly in my action. The 9-horse Hunt is scratched, so we move on to the 10-horse Catapult at 6-1. I will be using Catapult in my pick 4. Jockey Drayden Van Dyke, trainer John Sadler, a high buyer of 104. Back-to-back triple-figure buyers. He's versatile. That will be very helpful in this race. He has traded decisions with Sharp Samurai, and that runner has been a win machine. Samurai exited the last race to take a Grade 2, and the 12th place finisher in that race just took a $250,000 Kentucky Downs stake the next out. Sadler has always had confidence in Catapult, and people question that at times. This pro comes to the Cup fresh. Nice drills, been planning for this race, could easily envision a trip where he will sit 6th or 7th off of a valid pace, screaming for room late. Don't sell Catapult too short. I won't be. He has the right racing style to compete here. His best races have come on firm turf, but I think he will be able to handle the softer going. Now the 11, Lightning Spear at 20-1. First time, it's a first time buyer. That must mean first time Lasix. Sorry about that. Lightning Spear. Let's take a closer look at Lightning Spear right now. We'll be using Lasix for the very first time, making his North American debut. As we said, he beat Expert Eye 3 races back, winning in Goodwood, Great Britain, and with a real nice time. Then he came back in France and lost to Expert Eye. Then his last race coming here was in Ascot in Great Britain in a big Grade 1 race where Roaring Lion won by a neck over I Can Fly. It was an impressive race by I Can Fly, and Roaring Lion will be seen in the Classic. This is the 6th of the last 8-mile winners were 6 of the last 8-mile winners were 5 years or older. Note that he was agile enough to overcome being steadied at the start and lacking room in his only win this year. This veteran sure has not ducked anybody. He's been going in Grade 1 races, racing against the best in the business. This is a live underdog at this point, and I am exactly figuring out my pick 4 right now. At this point, I don't plan on using Lightning Spear, but I do think he's a dangerous long shot. And you need to have long shots on your pick 4 if you want a multi-$1,000 payout. Let's move on to the 12. Analyze it at 6-1. Jockey Irad Ortiz Jr., trainer Chad Brown, very dangerous combination. High buyer of 99 was a tough beat in Chicago 2-back, and this one was flattered, absolutely flattered when Catholic Boy returned to take the Grade 1 Travers Stakes with a 104 buyer. I believe in Catholic Boy in this year's Classic. Whether or not Catholic Boy can win it is questionable, but is a great, great horse. Only one off effort, only one bad effort. There's a bunch of possible reasons why he had a bad effort, because he's won on firm and yielding grass. He lost a heartbreaker on the good course in the Grade 1 Secretariat. He is tactical velocity. He can make decisions, or at least allow Irad Ortiz Jr. to make decisions as he goes. It will give him first run on the speed. All this runner does is show up. He puts on his work boots, and he shows up. But it just feels like when horses come up beside him in the stretch, they pass him. And it's people have said, question whether Analyze It has a big enough heart, because it just seems when his biggest rivals line up, get up right beside him, they end up passing him in the stretch. The number 13 horse, Gustav Klimt, out of Ireland at 10-1. Jockey Ryan Moore, trainer Aidan O'Brien, very dangerous. First-time Lasix. Another O'Brien charge to open the year with a win over 3 foes, but he's not been able to close the deal since. He just doesn't seem to be good enough to me. This is a very tough post coming out of the 13. And now we move on to Matasharai. Jockey William Buick, trainer Sir Michael Stout, first-time Lasix, will be making his Grade 1 debut. This September to July freshening, little break from September to July, really seems to have helped this horse. This winner of the York race in August was beaten by Oscar Performance in the Woodbine next out, and then was 6th at 8-1 in the Group 1 Queen Elizabeth II Stakes. But being expertly managed, tries to turn an international hat trick today, and ever since they gelded this horse, he's turned into an excellent runner. It's a very tough post. Now, it's now actually a little bit better because the 9 was scratched, so now it's the 13 post, even though he's the 14th horse. It's a lightly raced 5-year-old. I feel like Mutasharai can do some damage in this race. It's a very long number. You're getting 15-1 on the morning line. And I'm saying these are the kind of horses that you need to add in your pick 4 if you want that giant score, which is what I want. And finally, also eligible and now entered in the race because of the scratches, the 15 De Visadero, jockey Javion Toledo, trainer Kelly Rubley. Now, De Visadero loves Churchill Downs. He's 3 for 4 here, but it just feels like his best days are behind him. He was set to run in the Shadwell Turf Mile, and he just lost his mind, threw a huge giant fit, had to be withdrawn. I've always liked the Visadero, but he's now 6 years old, and I just don't feel like he can compete with these. There you go. That is the mile and the beginning of the very exciting pick 4. Next up, we have race 9, the Distaff, to find out who is the fastest female horse in North America. It's run at 1 mile and an 1/8, and it goes off at 4:16 p.m. I am so excited about this race. We have the champion 3-year-old against last year's champion 3-year-old, who's now had a questionable last race. I'm so excited about the betting opportunity I have here. Let's break it down. First horse, number 1, Champagne Problems at 12-1. Jockey Calvin Burrell, trainer Ian Wilkes, a high buyer of 96. Champagne Problems is in the best form of her life, being on the board in 6 of her 7 races in 2018. Champagne Problems gave the number 10 Blue Prize, whom we'll talk about quite a bit. Blue Prize is one of the favorites, certainly not the favorite or the second favorite, but one of the favorites in this race. She gave Blue Prize all she could handle the last 2 races, but just didn't have enough to pass her. She's in the best form of her life. She may not like the distance. It may be a bit too long for her, but regardless of Champagne Problems being in the best form of her life, I don't think Blue Prize is the best horse or second best horse in this race. And if Champagne Problems can't get past Blue Prize, I'm not going to have anything to do with her in this race. Now let's move on to the 2. God damn, this is so exciting. We have Abel Tasman, the champion 3-year-old filly last year, with jockey Mike Smith and trainer Bob Baffert. Bob Baffert, probably the best trainer in the world. Abel Tasman is going off at 7-2 because in her last race, something went wrong. Let me break down a little bit better. She has a high buyer of 105. She's last year's champ. She nearly won last year's Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Distaff at Del Mar. She had a huge winning run at the Grade 1 Phipps on June 9th at Belmont. She won the Personal Ensign, another Grade 1 at Saratoga. And then what the hell happened at Santa Anita in the Grade 1 Zenyatta? She went off as a 1-9 favorite, and something went wrong. She placed 5th. How far back was she? 10.5 lengths back. Now, Bob Baffert said she was fighting something. There were rumors going on that there was some sort of sickness going through Baffert's barn. Why he didn't stop her from racing, we'll never know. Now, he says she's much better now. If she's able to return to form, she's the one to beat. Baffert has also yet to win this race, and that could change. What I'm going to do here is trust Bob Baffert. Now, my dad thinks that Mona My Girl, the 11 horse, the 3-year-old champion right now, is the horse to take. But I don't agree with him. And I've been in this situation before. I've seen it so many times. When the same trap I believe my dad's falling for, I have fallen for. You fall in love with the 3-year-old, but the older horse is able to beat the younger horse. And I'm not going to fall for it this time. I'm going to jump on Abel Tasman. Now, it's 7-2 with the morning line because of whatever happened last race. I don't think we'll get her at 7-2. I even think it could go down to 2-1. I hope not. But at 7-2, this is a glorious proposition. Listen, Baffert is the best in the business. He's not going to bring Abel Tasman out to get embarrassed. He thinks that Abel Tasman can win this race and Baffert can win it for the first time. I am on Abel Tasman. Let's move forward. The 3-horse, La Force, out of Germany, 20-1. Jockey Drayden Van Dyke, trainer Patrick Gallagher, high buyer of 99. Has just 1 win over winners, and that was an optional claimer. But she has 3 straight Grade 1 seconds out west. She's a tough horse. She couldn't get to Unique Bella, who's a monster in the first 2 of those. Then she finished well, almost catch Vale Dory in the Grade 1 Zenyatta, and that was the race where, you know, things broke out pretty well for her and for Vale Dory because Abel Tasman didn't fire. The 1 1/8, though, may be a little too far for her. Let's move on to Mopetism, 30-1. Jockey Mario Gutierrez, trainer Doug O'Neill, high buyer of 95. This is a hard-trying filly. She's won a Grade 2. She's got some quality, but that win came January 13th at Santa Anita. She's been no factor since. We have not seen this horse since July. This is way too tough a spot. Let's not take too much time on her. Move on to the 5-horse, Wonder Godot at 15-1. Jockey Irad Ortiz Jr., trainer Mark Cassey. Now, Canadian thoroughbred fans will remember Wonder Godot very well. She won the biggest race that we have in Canada, the Queen's Plate. She followed that up by winning the Prince of Wales Stakes. Then she went south for bigger fish, and she got the bigger fish. Now, let's backtrack even more. Wonder Godot with a high buyer of 96. She got that here at Churchill Downs. She got that in the Kentucky Oaks. She lost to Monomoy Girl, who is the favorite in this race, the 11 horse. She came second to Monomoy Girl. It was very impressive. Then she went to Canada, won the Queen's Plate, won the Prince of Wales Stakes. Then she went to the Grade 1 Travers Stakes against the boys. And it was just too much to handle. She was well beaten. She came, she was bad in that race. Sorry, that's a wrong stat there. Wonder Godot in the Travers Stakes came 10th, 19.5 lengths back. So then she comes into the Cotillion, up against Monomoy Girl and Midnight Bazoo. And she raced poorly. She was right with Monomoy Girl. It was a real test where we're going to see how good is Wonder Godot. Monomoy Girl just ran away from her. Now, Wonder Godot may just be tired after a tough, long season, and she has every right to be. She's been run hard. I am not going to have Wonder Godot in my action, even though I have a soft spot for her as the Queen's Plate champion. Let's move on to the 6-horse, Verve's Tale at 30-1. Jockey Brian Hernandez Jr., trainer Barclay Tag, high buyer of 93. You have to go back over 14 months to find her last win. It was August 2017. She's run a number of decent races since. She was 3rd in the Grade 1 Beldame at Belmont, October 6th. She's finished behind a number of these in recent months, and that doesn't even include Abel Tasman. If she repeats her top buyer, it could put her in the mix. This is too big of a class jump. I don't think Verve's Tale will be there when this race is over. Now we have the 7 Midnight Bazoo. I can understand someone wanting to take a shot with her. She's coming off her career high buyer. It was a great race. So number 7, Midnight Bazoo, jockey John Velasquez, trainer Steve Asmussen. And Asmussen is the only trainer in here to have won this race before, won it in 2014 with Untappable. She goes up. Midnight Bazoo goes up against Mono My Girl in the cotillion, the grade 1. It was an extremely interesting race. She was a little over 4-1, and she battled and battled and battled with Mono My Girl. They got into the stretch. They bumped. Mono My Girl came out and probably drifted into her path. So Midnight Bazoo was given the win via the disqualification of Mono My Girl. And it does seem like the right call. It's not a gift. Seems like it was a legitimate thing here. So in the grade 1 Alabama at Saratoga, it looked like 1.25 miles was too far. But then she just showed last out against Mono My Girl that 1.8 miles is the right distance. I'm going to use her in a couple of my exotics. I think we're going to get a lot of value. And she just raced Mono My Girl hard. She's a special filly. And 3-year-old fillies have won this race before. So I can understand if people like Midnight Bazoo at 6-1. I think you're getting a lot of value with her. And as I said, I'll be using her in exotics. And I think I'll probably just be focusing on exactors, but I may drop a triactor box because I do think that these 3 horses are very good, but there is a problem, and that's coming up now with the 8-horse Veiled Dory. Veiled Dory's also a good horse. Now, she's getting a tiny bit long on the tooth, now 6 years old. Career high buyer of 102, jockey Joseph Talamo, trainer Bob Baffert. Pressed the issue in the grade 1 Zenyatta September 30th, took over in the lane and kept on gamely. She fended off La Force. That was her first win in 16 months. In 2017, she was awesome. She just doesn't look like she's the same girl. Baffert kept at it, though, and you trust Baffert. He added blinkers for the Zenyatta, got the desired turnaround. It didn't hurt that Abel Tasman threw in a complete clunker. Now, Veiled Dory has an incredible record. 10 wins, 6 seconds, 2/3 in 21 races. I just feel like the 6-year-old looks like her best days are behind her. Veiled Dory could get in the way of the triactor or trifecta, whatever you want to call it. We call it different things in different countries. But I think that I will not be using Veiled Dory. And because I'm worried about Veiled Dory, I don't think I'll put too much on my triactor. And I will box the triactor. Let's move on to the 9, Wildcat out of Chile, 8-1. Jockey Jose Ortiz, trainer Chad Brown, high buyer of 94. When Wildcat came to the U.S., she was this unbeaten Chilean champ, and we were all very interested to see what she was going to do. She'd won 8 starts there and 7 just in dominating form. Her first 2 U.S. starts weren't bad. Those came at Saratoga. They were okay. Let's take a quick look at them. She came second by a neck in the grade 3 Chuvy. She was a big favorite in that. Disappointed everyone. Then she was 4-1 in the personal Ensign. Abel Tasman beat her by a lot, beat her by 10 lengths. Didn't impress anybody. Then she moved on to Belmont, went into the grade 1 Beldame, and it was not a very good field, but she looked great. She won that race by 3 1/4 lengths and put up that 94 buyer that we're talking about. Chad Brown's kept on with her, believes that she can fight in this spot. She's training very well, but she'll have to improve too much. If Abel Tasman is back in form, she's in trouble. Now we go on to the 10 Blue Prize. Blue Prize out of Argentina with a morning line of 6-1. Jockey Joey Bravo, trainer Ignacio Correas. Career high buyer of 96. Came from Argentina with this big reputation. It took a while for her to develop here. Well, it's happened though. She's won 4 of her last 5 and she loves it. She's coming off a win in the grade 1 Spinster at Keeneland. Champagne Problems was in that race. She beat Champagne Problems by 3 1/4 lengths. It was impressive. She handled the distance, and she's always been able to handle this distance of 1 mile and an 1/8. Also, she's done a lot of good work here at Churchill Downs. 5 of her 6 lifetime starts are here, and she's won 3 of them and come second twice. She's coming off a wild race at Keeneland. In that race, she was 4 wide, 5 wide until she got the lead. And then she swayed way out to the right, kind of moved back and then swayed again. It was nuts, and she barely held on. She is 7-7-1 in 16 races, but she's never beaten the likes of these. Yes, 7-7-1, so only once out of her 16 races has she not made the top 3. And I don't expect her to make the top 3 here. Now we get to the favorite, the 3-year-old champ, Mon My Girl at 2-1. Jockey Florent Giroux, trainer Brad Cox, high buyer of 101, being the dominant force in the 3-year-old filly division all year, winning 4 straight grade 1s. And it would have been fine. Excuse me, it would have been 5. But she finished first in that race. I told you she drifted into Midnight Bazoo's path. Still, she ran very well, posted a career top buyer. She's 2 for 3 here, including winning the Kentucky Oaks. You know she likes the place. It's her first time versus elders. That will be interesting to see how she handles that. In 10 career races, she's won 8, come second twice. Last time out, she finally broke her triple-digit buyer. We were waiting for that. She will make the lead if Florent Giroux wants it. I will be using Mon My Girl in some exactors and triactors, but I am also going to be backing Abel Tasman, going against my dad, backing Abel Tasman to win this race, to win the Breeders' Cup Distaff. Next up, we have race 10, the grade 1 $4 million turf at 1.5 miles at 4:56 Eastern time. Europeans have won 4 of the last 5 runnings in this race, and they are bringing over a superstar filly in Enable, who will be going off as the even money favorite. Let's break down this field right now. And we start with the number 1 horse, the defending champion, Talismanic, out of Great Britain, going off at 12-1. Jockey Mikel Barzalona, trainer Andre Fabre. A high buyer, a career high buyer of 108 in this race last year. It was his only North American start. Now he's coming back after a very poor try behind Enable in the grade 1 arc in France. It was a bad start. This 5-year-old has not been very good this year, but trained by a world-class conditioner, so you have to think that he's ready to fire here. He'll be able to save all the ground on the rail. Could work out a similar trip to that one he had last year, where you save ground, find a spot, and then pounce. In saying all that, his year 5 season has been too disappointing for me to back, and I won't be backing Talismanic. Now we get to the number 2 horse, the superstar filly I mentioned earlier, Enable, out of Great Britain, going off as the even money favorite. Jockey Frankie Dettori, trainer John Gosden. This is a superstar. Exits her 2nd Arc de Triomphe score, where she beat 4 of the horses in this race. It was her 6th grade 1 victory overall, all at today's distance, and will be getting Lasix for the first time while taking on the boys again. She's shown that this course condition makes little difference to her. It doesn't matter if it's thick, tough turf or soft turf, and we already know because of the rain the last couple of days that it's going to be softer turf. It doesn't matter. She has a tactical edge over her main rivals because she's got sharp early foot if she needs it, and she will be tough to down in her stateside debut. In 10 career races, she has won 9 and come 3rd once. She's only run twice this year, so she should be fresh. Her tactical speed will help. Yes, you can't make a lot of money on even money favorites. I won't be betting Enable to win, but I will be including Enable in my exotic. When you include a even money favorite in your exactas or trifectas, you want Enable to come 2nd or 3rd. That's the way you get the big score. So I will be cheering Enable to get nipped at the wire by one of my other favorite horses. That is the 2-horse Enable. Let's move on to another horse that I love, and I've loved for a long time. The 3-horse Channel Maker, going off at 12-1. Jockey Jose Ortiz, trainer Bill Mott, a high buyer of 108. He controlled things from the get-go over soft ground in Belmont's grade 1 Joe Hirsch Turf Classic at today's distance. It was soft ground that she seemed to love, and it will be soft ground that we will be expecting her to get on Saturday. There's not much speed signed on for this one either. If inside drawn rival Enable, who's right beside her, is not asked to assume command from the outset, maybe Jose Ortiz says, let's go with Channel Maker. Channel Maker is capable of holding on to a lead. It's been raining. You're going to get a course with some give in it. And Bill Mott, Channel Maker's trainer, has won this race twice. He has won 2 out of his last 3 races. Now I'm speaking about Channel Maker, not Bill Mott. Channel Maker's won 2 out of his last 3 races, hit triple-digit buyers in 5 of his last 6 starts, culminating in that monster 108 buyer where he beat the number 4 horse in this race, Robert Bruce, by 4 lengths. He has completely changed his running style over his last 3 races. Before, when I'd watch Channel Maker, he would save ground, and then make one big run. He's not doing it. He's not biding his time. He's not making one giant run. He gets involved right away, and it's paid dividends. At 12-1, I will be backing Channel Maker here. That's the kind of number where you can make cash. Let's roll on to the next horse, the 4-horse Robert Bruce out of Chile, 10-1 on the morning line. Jockey Irad Ortiz Jr., trainer Chad Brown. Is he the high buyer of 104? When the Grade 1 Arlington Million was in a great spot as the chalk when stretched out at this trip at Belmont and failed. That was the last race, lost by 4.5 lengths to Channel Maker, raising questions as to how far he really wants to go against this level of competition. He's comfortable going 1.25 miles, but is 1.5 miles too far? That's the question. And maybe it was the soft ground. It's been said that Robert Bruce doesn't like soft ground or the lack of a real pace in front of him, but he's going to need to take a good step forward to even get involved for a minor slice of this pot. The ground is expected to be soft. He won his first 6 races in Chile before coming to America, where he's 2-1-0 in 4 races, but he's run well in all 4 races. He's a good horse, but I won't be backing him. Let's move on to the number 5, Magical, out of Ireland, going off at 10-1. Jockey Ryan Moore, trainer Aidan O'Brien. If you've been watching these videos, you will know that that is an extremely dangerous combination, right on the level of a Baffert and Smith. We have American trainer jockey combinations that can rival Moore and O'Brien, but when they come over from Europe, you have to be very weary of these, or at least have a good eye on if you're fading or taking a Moore O'Brien horse. She is another first-time import getting Lasix for her stateside debut. She enters off a Grade 1 score at the Royal Ascot. She raced against Enable before in that arc. She came 10th, 5.25 lengths behind. I think we're asking too much of her to keep improving and to bridge the gap between her and Enable. She keeps racing on short rest. She's been a very, very busy horse lately. Look at her last race. So she ran on the 20th of October, 7th of October, and the 15th of September. That's a lot of races in a short period of time for a 3-year-old filly. I will not be backing her. Let's move on to the 6, Arklow, going off at 30-1. If you want a live long shot, this is probably your one. Florent Giroux was the jockey, trainer Brad Cox, a high buyer of 100, a nice turfer. He's picked up some nice checks going into the spring break, but not against these type of horses. Lost as the chalk in the Grade 3 Sycamore by 2 lengths last out at Keeneland. In the race before that, he scored his lone triple-figure buyer in the Kentucky Turf Club at Kentucky Downs. He's a Grade 2, Grade 3 type horse taking on world-class competition, but you're going to get a giant line. Now we get to the 7, Glorious Empire at 12-1. Jockey Julian Laperoux, trainer James Lawrence, a high buyer of 106. The 7-year-old older horse was freshened off the Grade 1 Sword Dancer score at Saratoga this summer, which was his third straight score. He is expected to be the pace setter. He's expected to go to the league. He spent the summer running neck and neck with Channel Maker. He clearly loves the sod at Saratoga. If you look at Glorious Empire stats, he's had 3 triple-digit scores, and they've all been at Saratoga, including the last 2. We are not at Saratoga for this race, and I will not be backing Glorious Empire. Let's move on to the 8, Liam the Charmer at 30-1. Jockey Tyler Gaffalione, trainer Michael McCarthy, high buyer of 97. Took a very slow renewal, won a very slow renewal of the Grade 2 John Henry Turf Championship at Santa Anita last out. Certainly returned as good as he was prior to the year layoff. That's a long layoff. A year layoff, but he's going to be facing a much faster field, a much tougher field. I can't use Liam the Charmer as a long shot. This is too big of a class jump for him. Now we move on to the 9, Quarteto de Cordas out of Brazil, going off at 30-1. Trainer Ian Wilkes. This South American import makes his first start in 3 months after hardly setting the turf world on fire in his native Brazil. He's going for the first time for a barn that has had some success with its new acquisitions first time out. This looks to be a much tougher spot for this colt. It's tough to expect him to take a step up against the best horses that we have in North America right off the bat. You just can't compare horses that he's faced in a $40,000 Grade 1 in Brazil to the fastest turf horses in a $4 million race at the Breeders' Cup. He has won at this distance, but this is just a ludicrous class jump for this horse. Now we get to the 10, High Happy out of Argentina, going off at 20-1. Jockey Luis Saez, trainer Todd Pletcher, a high buyer of 106, has had a disappointing few months. Had back-to-back big wins in the Grade 2 Pan American and the Grade 1 Mana War, and has followed that with 4 subpar efforts. He needs firm ground, and he won't get it. I'm staying away from High Happy. Now we move on to the 11, Sadler's Joy, going off at 20-1. Jockey Javier Castellano, trainer Thomas Albertrani, a high buyer of 105. He was fourth in this race last year at just under 17-1. This year, he will be around 30-1 when he goes off. He's a late runner who hasn't been on form in his latest race cycle. He needs a very fast pace in front of him, and he may not get it here. With all these European closers, he's not the best closer in this race, and he's going to need pace to run into. 5-year-old, not overly raced, 21 races in his lifetime. In 2018, he's run 7 times, come first once, second twice, third twice. He'll be coming flying late. I know a bunch of people that are using Sadler's Joy in their exotics. I have decided not to use them. I'm only using 3 horses in this race. Although I know Sadler's Joy will be coming, and you're going to get him at 30-1. I'm not going to be backing him here. Then we get to a very dangerous horse, the 12 Voltgeist out of Great Britain, going off at 9-2. Jockey Pierre-Charles Boudot, trainer Andre Fabre. Voltgeist had a 4-race winning streak snap when he came 4th by a length and a half to Enable in the Arc de Triomphe in France. The 4-race winning streak was a Grade 3, or Group 3, sorry, we're talking about European horse, Group 3, 2 Group 2s, and a Group 1. This will be his 3rd start in the form cycle. In the 4th win of that streak, he beat the number 1 defending champion Talismanic by 2.5 lengths. Voltgeist is dangerous, and I will be using Voltgeist in my exotic. So I have 3 horses I like in my exotics. We'll keep breaking the last horse down before we get into that. That is a 13 Hunting Horn out of Ireland, going off at 30-1. Jockey Wayne Lordan, trainer Aidan O'Brien, a high buyer of 95. We've seen Hunting Horn in North America before. He came 3rd behind Catholic Boy and Analyze It in the Grade 1 Belmont Derby. Just a length and a 3rd off the lead. It was pretty impressive. But then followed that up with a disappointing run at Arlington Park in the Grade 1 Secretariat, where she placed 8, 4 1/4 lengths off the lead. May have been too close to the pace in that one. Then faced Enable in the Arc de Triomphe, came 16 1/4 lengths back at 50-1. I'm going to have nothing to do with Hunting Horn. So I'm going to be using Voltgeist, I'm going to be using Channel Maker, and I'm going to be using Enable. I'm going to put them together in exactor boxes. I'm going to put them together in a triactor box. And the hope will be that Enable doesn't win and one of my other horses takes it. Also, Channel Maker has a nice 12-1 spot. I may make a bet on Channel Maker alone. That is a decision I need to make very soon. And that, my friends, is the turf, the $4 million turf.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our channel. Now, we've put a lot of work into producing all these free videos, so please help us out and keep all our content free for you forever by simply liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Now, not to mention, a visit to our industry-leading website will warm the hearts of all our SBR employees, especially myself. Now, the links are over there to the left, so do check those out. Thanks for watching.